Hello, my name is Sharon Minna. I'm an Executive Assistant 2 at Texas A&M University. I will soon be graduating from Texas A&M Commerce with a Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences in Organizational Leadership. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself and my leadership path. I started in education 25 years ago. I was a principal secretary. And at that time, 25 years ago, that's how I introduced myself. I'm just a secretary. Well, I'm glad to say that my profession has changed a lot since then, and I have too. I've worked as a principal secretary, a payroll clerk at a school district, and an executive assistant at a university. So how did I get here? What is my leadership path? I returned to college after great personal loss. I was widowed after 30 years, and I realized for the first time in my life that I was solely responsible for myself financially. So I was going to need to make some changes and grow a little bit professionally. So I went back to college. I was working full-time, of course, since I was the sole breadwinner. But I went back to college. I took online classes, and I got an associate's degree from Hill College in office administration. At this time, I also realized that I needed more. So I joined professional associations, and I got very active. I have to say that earlier this year, I was elected to serve as president-elect for a state professional association. And I have to tell you that that was quite a surprise for me, not something I ever sought out. So at the time, this was earlier this year, I changed my major at Texas A&M Commerce from office administration to organizational leadership. And the reason is twofold. One is that if I got a bachelor's degree in office administration, a profession that I've worked in 25 years, it would be nice, but it wouldn't really add anything to myself professionally or my portfolio. So I changed to organizational leadership. I wanted to use the skills that I learned in the program, not only in my career, but also as I prepared myself to lead as president of the state association. I have to say that prior to taking the course, I found myself as an unlikely leader, as someone who's served in a support role for 25 years. I've always seen myself as someone in the supported role. I did have the expertise, but I never sought any kind of leadership role. When I joined the state association several years ago, I never thought about serving in leadership roles. I only wanted to meet new friends. I had moved to a new part in Texas. I didn't know anybody there, and I didn't know anybody in the association, so I just set out to meet as many people as I could. Somewhere along the way, I gained enough friends and supporters in the association that they have opted for me to serve as the president starting August 2021. So that brings me to how I took the organizational leadership program. So what did I learn in the program? The courses were not only practical, but gave me insights and skills that I can use every day, not only as a leader of the professional association. I gained new insight in each class I taught. So I wanted to give you a little recap of just some of the things that I've learned. The Issues in Organizational Leadership class. This introduced me to leadership theories, and it gave a name and a structure to theories and approaches to leadership that I had not thought about before. I thought a leader just leads and doesn't. I didn't have a depth of the leadership role. So I really enjoyed this class. In the class, I was given the opportunity to create a leadership strategy, a personal leadership strategy. And I have to say that I've already progressed some on this assignment. As a matter of fact, all the assignments I completed in the course, I'm probably going to be putting into practice either in the immediate future or in the not too distant future. And in this class, I had to create a personal leadership strategy. And one of the things that I've already done on this program, on this plan that I created, was that my goal was to read Developing Leaders Around You by John Maxwell. And I'm glad to say that I have shared this experience with my colleagues. One of the assignments that I used in the class, that I submitted in the class, was a book review on the book by John Maxwell. That book review was actually published in our quarterly newsletter this year. And I've gone a step further. I've invited a John Maxwell speaker to come and speak to my incoming board this June. So this class really gave me some practical experience that I'm going to be putting in place soon. We also did an exercise in personal reflection. And during this exercise, I realized that though I didn't realize it, I'm more of a participative leader. I don't like to be the autocrat and dictator. I want everyone to get involved. I want everyone to benefit. And I don't want to just give my ideas. I want to hear others' ideas, and I want to see those put into practice. Another thing that we did is I learned the difference between management and leadership, and I never thought about this before. But what it boiled down to for me was leadership is about leading people, and management is just managing the task. And that's a very key difference. And I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's how I could carry it forward and realize that as a leader, I've got to focus on the people. The next class was data-driven decision making. And this process, though I didn't realize it, it really gave me justification for any of the decisions made. And it changed my viewpoint. My viewpoint was looking at stats and figures and analysis was just to tell us how we did. But after this class, I realized that the stats and the data should be telling us what we need to do. And I've already put some of that into practice too. Next class was behavior, ethics, and leadership. Standards of behavior is, ethics is standards of behavior that tell us how we ought to act. Sometimes confused with feelings or religion or the norms dictated by our culture or following the laws. But what it boils down to is that ethics is how we ought to act. And I learned that the culture of ethics should be, in any organization, should be communicated, modeled, documented to the point that it is immersed and becomes the nature of the organization and the nature of conducting business. There were 2 leadership theory classes, but what really stood out for me was the final project in the first leadership theory class. It was a SWOT analysis of a professional association. This exercise allowed me to analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the organization that I will be leading August 1st. And I look forward to implementing some of the things that I had in my assignment. It's kind of given me a roadmap of how my year will be. Leading change. In leading change, we created a change management plan. And I have to say that in this class, I used the assignment as a practical approach. I used the skills learned in the class and I devised a plan for my husband's small business. My husband has a one-man plumbing shop. He'd like to retire sometime soon, but he hasn't been able to put in place how he's going to be able to do that. So I put together a change management plan where I analyzed the status quo, and I used the plan and addressed the method for expansion so that he could retire. And I also included in my plan how it would be funded. And I have to say that he was pretty impressed. Whether or not he'll do it, I don't know, but it was a very practical exercise that I really enjoyed. The Capstone 1. My Capstone 1 final project was a lot of fun, I have to say. I really dreaded it. I knew that I was going to need to interview leaders. and I was worried about it up until the time when I actually had to get started. But when I did, I have to say that it was my favorite part of the program. I chose to interview 3 leaders instead of 2. I interviewed the chief of police here locally in Bryan, Texas. He told me about his leadership styles and his approach, and I was very taken aback with he gave me a lot of insight into leadership in a law enforcement role. He gave me more of the structure that he needs to think of, and also how he leads in a very difficult profession. The next interview that I did was with the president and CEO of the Association of Former Students here at Texas A&M University. I really enjoyed this interview. Porter Gardner was his name, and he taught me not only how he came to be a leader, but what impacted him in his younger life, in his earlier life, that had made a difference in his leadership style. It was very informative. It was very open, honest, very good exchange of information, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The last interview I did, I actually interviewed the president of Texas A&M Commerce. Being an executive assistant to a vice president, I reached out to the president's assistant and just asked would he be willing to interview for my class project, and of course he said yes. He told me about his leadership style and what his approach was at Texas A&M Commerce, and it really made me wish that I was an in-person student, because I kind of get the impression that he really enjoys the interaction with the students and with the faculty and staff there on campus. It was a very good interview. And like I said, I dreaded this class assignment, but I have to say that it was probably my most rewarding out of the program, and I'm glad I had the opportunity. So where has all of this taken me as a leader? Well, after I think about all of the things I've learned in the classes and the opportunities that I have coming up in a few months, I have to say that my focus has changed from what I would do as a leader. My focus is now on what I will do for the people. My focus is more on the individual members of the association. It has nothing to do with what I will do. It's what I can help them do. I want to develop the members to give them an opportunity to either serve in a leadership role if they want to, but at the very least to have the confidence that they can do it if they choose to do it. I see the opportunity to be chosen to serve. It's a gift of trust, and I hope to repay that trust with helping everyone to reach their potential. I'm not going to focus on what I want to do. I'd like to see the organization grow by allowing each member to grow personally and professionally, and that's where my focus is going to be this year. I still see myself as an unlikely leader, and I still get a little nervous thinking about the opportunity. But what I've come away with after the organizational leadership program is that I have confidence, not that I'm a perfect leader or that I'm the perfect role model for the organization, but I have confidence in the passion that I have to serve and the passion that I have to help each member. So that's where my focus is going to be this year. So how am I going to continue on my leadership journey? I see myself as a lifelong learner. Even at my age, yes, I'm not a traditional student. I'm a few years older than traditional students. Even at my age, I don't want to stop learning. I see if I stop learning, I stop living, and I want to continue to learn. So I've already thought about taking a graduate certificate to continue my studies. Whether or not I do that is yet to be determined. I'm going to enjoy graduating. But what I want to do is I want to develop others, and I want to remove barriers to their success. So as I start as president of the organization on August 1st, I will have a new incoming board. So what I want to give them is I have invited a John Maxwell speaker to come and speak to my new board during our orientation session. I see this as a gift to them that I would like to set the stage that the year that I'm president will be the year that they can reach a goal or maybe to think of being a leader themselves. That brings me to the end of this assignment, my last assignment as a student, and I want to thank you for the opportunity.